Welcome to the Unconversations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alison. If you're all about comfort zones and the status quo, this isn't your show. Each episode shares untold stories from disruptive leaders and innovators who challenge norms, drive business transformation, and lead with unapologetic purpose. And don't miss the Unword effect. 3 defining words that shape their leadership evolution. What if your true competitive edge as a leader lies not in strategy, but in energy? Today's guest, Faryl Moore, founder of More Energy, has spent over 2 decades helping leaders step into that truth. She works with soul-curious seekers, founders, and CEOs holding big visions, and meets each one exactly where transformation is already unfolding. Blending Pranic Healing and soul-led strategy, Faryl creates a grounded, sacred space for a deep, energetic shift. Her work elevates leaders beyond tactical improvement. She strengthens their energetic clarity, emotional capacity, and embodied presence. Get ready, because this conversation is anything but contained. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Unconversations podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alison and Faryl Moore. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Alison. I'm very excited for our conversation today.
I am too, because this is actually a very unique twist. And I think it's, some people are going to be listening to this show and they're going to be like, what the hell are they talking about? I thought we were going to be talking to a CEO about hardcore strategy, how we're going to be able to improve on our businesses, how we're going to be able to make more money. And yeah, there could be some of that comes up in today's topic. But I think what you're going to be talking about and we're going to talk about today is how we can be beautiful, wonderful vessels and be just as centered and productive at the same time. So I'm totally looking forward to us digging into all these level of topics.
Great.
But before we get started, I like to start every podcast with a segment that I call the Unword effect. And Faryl, I know you were super excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
One, you were kind of like, ooh, I like this. This is kind of different.
Yeah.
And I think the meaning behind the Unword effect is even going to have a different twist today. I'd like to ask my guests to think of 3 words that start with un that have influenced them professionally, personally, and even an evolution into their leadership, which your story definitely has a lot of twists and turns with that flow. But I think what's kind of more important about this conversation, even today with the Unword effect, is sometimes when we're thinking about these words, these can actually be words that maybe have held us back. And we're trying to create a different meaning behind them to almost kind of set us free, maybe forgive ourselves in a way.
Yeah.
And it can also inspire us because it has us sort of think about ourselves in a really different way. So I'm really excited to get into yours. And first, I would love if you could talk about your process that you went through, and then we'll kind of get into each of those words individually.
Okay, great. So the process that I went through to get to my unwords was, first of all, the first things that pop into your head. What are the things? And then I sat with those and I really just was like, but are those the right ones? Like, not right, but right for me. Do they really describe me and my work, not just currently, but throughout my life? And do they describe me as a person? Yeah. And so I sat with that and changed my words from the first time I talked to Alison.
Now, Faryl, can I ask you this question? When you sat, what was that? What was that like for you? Because I have a picture in my head of how you were sort of taking this all in. So if you might go into that, because I think that could also help other people too, as they think about maybe going through this exercise themselves.
Yes. So when I say sit, I do 3 things. 1, I actually physically sit right? Now, when I say that, where you sit is not as important. But for me, it's usually outside when I'm really kind of
Mm.
processing. So I literally sit, and I usually have a journal, and some crystals and some things that are just around to really allow me to hit the inside soul purpose area of my being. Okay. So I sat outside actually, and I first journaled. I was like, unwords. And I went through this whole process in my journaling of, this is so cool. I've never had somebody ask me this question before. I don't know what this is, right? Like, how did I come up with the 3 words I blared out that day? And I was like, I'm not sure those are right. And so I sat and I just kept journaling. And when I say journaling, I'm not talking about journaling with a purpose. I'm talking about almost like a brain dump where you literally just write everywhere, all over the place, different things that are coming up until you find the core of that topic you're working on.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So there's that. And then I sat with those words that I chose. I had them on paper and I put my crystals on top of them and I just meditated.
Wow.
Now, not a guided meditation and not a long meditation. We think of these things as things that have to take a very long time, and they
Right.
don't,
Right.
right? I sat there in silence for maybe 3 minutes. And I was like, oh, okay, I got it. And I adjusted and I really sat again for a couple of minutes with it. And I was like, always put your hand to the heart, compassion for self. And I was like, okay, those are the words. And here we are.
And that's why I needed to ask you that question, because I know once we get into your journey of how you got into the, because you were in corporate
Mhm.
and you were working with other people before you started your company. And so that is why I wanted to ask, because I knew for you uh, that it was going to be a different process. And that's why I'd like to ask my guests to talk about that, because not everybody's process is the same, and not every process is right or wrong. But just hearing how professionals and people approach things, I think that was really important. So thank you very much for sharing that. So, which words did you want to start with?
Oh, I'm fine with any of them.
Okay. I don't know why this is, we have them in an order, and I asked you if you still wanted to do this, and
Mhm.
I'm kind of feeling like it still is a good
Okay.
order. So let's start with uncontainable.
Uncontainable. Okay. So, uncontainable for me is this notion that, as I've learned over the course of my life, we actually, although we see each other as physical matter, we are not, right? Like, we are made up of all the same things that everything else is made up of. And that's from an energetic perspective. Not trying to blow everyone out of the water yet. But energetically, we can tap into the energy of anything. And so when you think about that, it really shows that you are not contained by anything except your mind,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so when I think about who I am and how I have come on this journey, uncontainable was like the perfect word because I literally very rarely feel contained. And if I am contained, it's all a story.
Yeah, and you know what? The reason why I felt like I wanted you to start with that one is because I think people feel we are contained. We're
Mhm.
contained by society. We're contained by family. We're
Mhm.
contained sometimes religiously.
Mhm.
We're contained by what our government or the place that we're working. So I think people feel
Mhm.
this level of containment
Mhm.
in their lives, and that's why I thought that was a really great one for us to. start with, because the mind is a tricky little beast
Ooh,
up there.
yes.
And it can inspire you, it can bring you down, it can tell you records that you think are true. So it's a really complicated um, piece of us, and especially when you have this head and the heart trying to figure out how to work together. So I know
Right.
we'll get into that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
This one I thought was awesome too.
Okay.
Your next one was Unwavering, which I could that one with your personality, I just think, and
Yeah.
with the few times we have had the most amazing time in talking to one another, that one
Mhm.
really kind of struck me with you.
Yeah, so it's interesting. There are people who feel like, you hear these statements, I have unwavering support, right? Which, okay, that's when I talk about unwavering, I am talking about the fact that everything about me, my work, my life is dedicated to helping others. Sacred space holder. That's me. But not only that, it's that unwavering in the sense of the belief in what I'm doing. I don't, for one moment, no one could shake me off of my knowing
Yeah.
that energy is the key to everything. Okay. So,
How would you describe, if I could ask you this question? So there's the unwavering that you were just talking about
mhm.
versus maybe someone's passion.
Okay. So I have a passion for crystals. Okay. I have them everywhere. I mean, there's a whole tray of them back here. There's a tray of them, like they're everywhere. I have a passion for crystals, but I have an unwavering belief in the body's ability to heal itself, and that the work that I can do can help the body be in that state so that it can heal itself. Right. I have an unwavering belief that we are all made of the same stuff. Right. It is literally like in the core of who you are.
Yes.
Right. Now, crystals are great and I can use them for all kinds of things. And I love them and I have a passion for them and I learn about them and I share them. But that's not the same thing as having an unwavering belief in crystals.
Right.
I'm not unwavering about them.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yep.
So that's the best way that I could explain that to people, is that I have a passion for lots of things. Passion for
Yes.
yoga. I have a passion for, dance, music.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. But I am unwavering in my dedication to the concept that every single person has the ability to heal, whether they believe it or not.
Yeah, and I love that about the unwavering, because I have talked with just very brilliant and amazing women like you, where I wanted to ask you, because that's really clear,
Yeah.
on what unwavering really means and how that is in relation to what you do.
Mhm.
And that's where I really try to work with my executive coaching clients,
Mhm.
with really understanding that, because there is a difference between the passion
Mhm.
and the unwavering, and
Mhm.
I find there's a lot of noise that wants to kick us off the unwavering part,
Mhm.
and really understanding what our purpose really is, like
Yes.
the essence of what we are supposed to do. Like I know I'm supposed to do this, I know I'm
Mhm.
supposed to help people, I
Mhm.
know I'm wanting to have these level of conversation, like,
Right.
as much as there's competition in everything and podcasting, I know what I am doing is
Mhm.
there's nothing going to uh unwaver me away from this path. So
Right.
I get that. I totally get that. And that's why I wanted to ask you specifically the difference.
Yeah, and I would say unwavering is closer to purpose rather than
Yeah.
passion.
Yeah.
And I say that because It's really what you are so sure about in yourself. So you can be unwavering about anything, right? But it's the devotion. And when you think about devotion, some people will take that to like a religious place, but
Yes.
devotion just really means that you walk your talk. You do what you're doing in the world, you're doing for self, is not just for others.
Right. Right.
Right. So having a job, corporate job, you're doing that job maybe because you like it, or maybe because you just ended up there. Right. And you might be really good at it. But if you're not feeling that connection, that divine inner spirit rising every time you do what you're doing, then that's not unwavering. That's, this is what I do.
Right. Right.
Very important.
Yeah. Definitely important distinction. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And your third word, Unveiled, which is great because I think this one is really cool for us to have you talk about that, but to really kind of dive in how you went from here to
Yes.
more energy. I think it's a great transition.
Thank you. Okay, so unveiled. So there's two different ways you can look at this word. And so the first one is, just kind of pulling back the curtain. You think of like the Wizard of Oz, right? You pull the curtain back and it's who you are, right? It's all the things match all the things. The other piece to that is a little bit more esoteric, which is we actually live with a veil between worlds. Okay. Some people's gifts, and everybody has them. I need you to know that every single human on the planet has a gift.
We're going to get into that and have you talk about what that really means. And that doesn't mean you have a gift for accounting or you have a gift for, that you have a gift. So we're really going to kind of really shake. And I want to make sure when we're talking about terms that we're really clear on those terms. So excellent. Yes. I absolutely agree with you that everyone has gifts. Yes. And we'll get into that.
So the unveiled part is understanding that there is this energetic, and it is energetic, veil that some people have the ability and consciousness and frequency to access, and some people just haven't yet gotten there. For me, I have been unveiled since I was 4.
Okay. And talk about also what that really specifically means.
Yeah. So when I was younger, and I'm just going to use 4, but it may have been 4 to 6, right? You're still, as a being, we are still like a video camera, right? Like we don't really have anything to make sense of anything. But I was able to see things around my friends, like light. You could imagine it as light. I was able to feel what my friends were feeling, and I wasn't even with them. And it was scary because nobody knew what was happening. Like, it wasn't like my mom was like this great big psychic, right? Like, no. And then as I got older, I started to have dreams that were predictive, and I had no guide. And so people would just say, oh no, it's her she's imagining, it's her imagination. Everything's her imagination. And it wasn't until I got into college that I really understood like what was happening, even though all these things happened along the way. So for me, when I say unveiled, since I'm 4, it means I had access to all this unknown really young. Now.
And let me ask you this, when you talked about that to obviously the best of your ability, one, how did your mom respond to that? And 2, were there any challenges in school of going, hopefully she'll grow out of this?
So it's interesting. So my mom was compassionate. She wasn't totally averse because my grandmother used to say, don't get on the plane because, or
Right.
the weather's going to do this. But we all just kind of like laughed about it. Like it was this
Right.
joke family
Right.
thing. Um, as I got older and I recognized that I was tapping into something that not everybody had access to, at first I was like, okay, am I creating this or is it real? Right? Like, am I
Did it scare you, or
It
you
did.
were just trying?
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Okay.
And actually, when I was 13, my best friend, for 2 weeks prior to the actual event, my best friend, I had a dream every night that my best friend was gonna get into a car accident.
Oh, wow.
Never said anything because what do you say? Like, "Hey, don't get in the car." Like, until when? Like, that's just absurd. So, I didn't say anything. She ended up getting into a car accident, which flipped me out.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
did I cause the car accident? That's what happens with people. By the way,
Yeah.
they immediately think that they are the cause.
Of course.
No. Here's what I've learned. First of all, I shut that down. So I veiled myself for a period of time. Um, what happened was you get knowing from the divine so that you can be there and ready for what's happening. You don't create it. You are there tapped to assist. Of course.
When you say divine, what does divine mean?
Okay. Thank you for asking that because I actually do think that's really important.
Okay.
So when I say divine, that is my word for whatever it is you connect to that is larger than you. Some people call it God, right? Like
Sure.
just straight up. Some people call
Sure.
it universe.
Yep.
Some people call it source. Now, then there's other people who will call it Buddha
Mm,
or Jesus.
mm.
These are all divine entity or
Yeah.
energy. So I use the word divine for this purpose. It is higher than we are, but you can connect to it. And so whatever that is for you, that is your divine. Is that helpful?
Yep. That is
Okay, great.
extremely, because I know when people hear divine, they'll
Mhm,
immediately go to a religious connotation to
mhm,
it. When for me, just the work I've done, I look at it and it can be numerous things with
mhm,
the similar definition to you that it is greater than us.
mhm,
But most people that are probably going to listen to this will go straight to a religious,
mhm.
have that be God, Jesus, whatever that is, when this that we're talking about could really be whatever it is that's bigger than you.
Correct. And you're actually touching on the real essence of what it means to be unveiled. When you're unveiled, you recognize that there are common threads and themes through every, not just religious, but also esoteric group. I don't know what you want to use for term there, but regardless of what it is you believe in, it is connected to what this person believes in or what that person believes in. The only place that we get a little interesting is for people who don't believe there's anything,
Right.
right? So that's listen, you need to believe what works for you. But most people who don't believe that there's anything, they still believe that there is an energy that exists. They can't explain it. They don't know what it's called. They don't believe it's fate or any of that, but it's there, right?
Yep.
Okay. So when you're truly unveiled, what you recognize is that there is no distinction between any of these things. Those are constructs of our society, our norms, you name it.
Yep.
Okay.
That makes absolute sense to
Yeah.
me. And I love that, because I think if more people in
Mhm.
our society could, and even in corporations and
Yes.
even within ourselves, and I know you and I will definitely talk about how what you're talking about translates,
Mhm.
uh uh into corporations and founders, entrepreneurs, and all that wonderful stuff. But if we weren't so focused on as a society that it has to be this one this this one
Right.
this one thing, and fighting for that as this one
Yeah.
thing,
Mhm.
when you don't even really know if you're truly fighting for that one thing.
That's
because
right.
You weren't,
Yeah.
you weren't there. I mean,
Correct.
and so I think it would just be a much more heart-centered place that I know is one of your main goals in what and the other one that I love is getting people to be more soul curious.
Yes.
I love that, and we'll get into that as well. Uh, would you be able to kind of talk about briefly, because I know we have a set time and there's
Mhm.
just so much amazing stuff to talk about. Oh my gosh, like I mean seriously.
Mhm.
um but I appreciate you speaking about kind of what this meant for you as a child. But college came,
Mhm.
and obviously you've had a career
Mhm.
before starting more energy. So,
Correct.
can you kind of synopsize for us what that journey was like? And then I would love for us to, one, have you just briefly talk about more energy, is how something like this is so impactful, and so easy, and can be used not only in our own businesses, in our own personal lives, but corporations can really do this, because I know their main focus is bottom line, productivity, customer satisfaction, and we currently are living in a very, very high stress
Mhm.
environment currently. So, if you could start first with just that beautiful journey of how you got to more energy, that'd be amazing.
Absolutely. So I grew up in your typical I actually had a very lovely childhood. There's a lot of healers that don't have that experience, but I
Mhm.
had your normal traumas, the friends that were mean to you and the cousins that fell asleep while they were babysitting for like just that kind of stuff. So I went to high school, went to college. When I got to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And of course, back then you went to college,
No,
at least in my house. Like
yeah,
there wasn't
that
really
the
a
same as mine.
choice.
And that wasn't an option.
No,
And
no,
I'm
right.
grateful for that. Grateful for that. But it was like not an option. You were
No.
going to college. So
Good.
yes,
Okay. So you understand. So I
definitely.
went I went to University of Maryland. Um because I'm a really good student. I was always a really good student, and in fact I was pretty bored most of the time I was in school. Not so much because I was doing it better because there were subjects like math. No. So my college career was about where can I take the least number of math classes? Okay? So first it was business because dad said you got to do business, and I was like, there's too much math. Then it was industrial psychology,
Ah,
and I was like, nope, still too much math, but I really like this topic.
it really,
Ended
it
up an
really,
English
it
major.
really is. It really is. I can
Yeah,
contest to that. It is.
I ended up an English major, and of course, this is you get those statements. What are you going to do with that? Well, literally, I've done everything I've ever done with that, but that's a whole nother story. Okay. While I was in college, I took a world religions class. And what I figured out was there was all because I was having this crisis of conscience, if you can imagine, like, you're 18, 19, 20, and you're like, am I still Jewish?
Uh,
Like, that's what I was born into, but is this really me? So I took that class and it opened my eyes in a different way to the fact that what I was taught was also taught here, just slightly differently, and
Mm.
also taught here, which was slightly differently. So why are we so angry? Right? Similar to what you
Yep.
were talking about before.
Yes.
So I graduate and I start working in corporate. I was a director of consumer relations for Memorex when I was 24. Okay. I thought this was like, I was the pinnacle of my career. I was like, this is the best thing ever. No, I got all the negative calls.
Wow.
And that just, I literally, my soul was being just destroyed.
It can beat you down.
It beat me down.
Yeah.
I got no positive, all negative.
Yeah, definitely.
So then I decided to go into education, thinking, oh, well,
This will be easier.
So much easier. There's not as much bureaucratic BS. Who was I kidding? Okay, so anyway, I became a teacher. I taught language arts and social studies. Then I became an assistant principal. Along the way, though, I also was doing Reiki when no one knew what it was.
And explain to people what that is, because I think you kind of touched on this. I do want people also to understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, that there's a difference between being a psychic of what you do, a psychic, and what you do. So I want to make sure that those things because as much as I'll enjoy all the comments that come after this, but I don't want people to bombard you going, I'd like to set up a psychic.
Right. Reading. No, I'm not a psychic.
Right.
But I have a good one if you need, right? Like, this is the beautiful thing about being a healer. I have all these people because I have to be healed too. So that's for another time. But
yeah.
Reiki is a no touch or touch, but I do it no touch, energy healing modality. Very similar to pranic healing, which is also another energy modality. And while I have, because everybody does, the ability to be psychic, I have chosen not to go that route or open that door. Okay. And you can make those choices.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because I wanted to help people. I did not want to be bombarded by, going to the other side. And like, I didn't know. Okay. Reiki was 26 years ago when I did Reiki, when I first learned Reiki and nobody knew what it was. This is what people would say. Oh, hello, Mr. Miyagi. Right? Like that's the closest reference people had.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
And it's not that unusual. It's actually very similar to that. But what you're basically doing is channeling and allowing that energy to come out. Now, what is channeling? Channeling is allowing the veil to be dropped enough for energy to flow from wherever that is up in the cosmos down straight into an energy center at the top of your head called the crown, straight through and out your hands. So really, you're a vessel. Okay. Pranic healing, slightly different. We're not a vessel in the same way. We are a tool. Okay. And this tool allows us to clear out, put in, and stabilize. That's the two differences. Reiki just sort of displaces. So you feel great for a period of time.
Yep.
Okay. So alongside of doing my education career, I was doing healing on the side. So now I just want you to imagine for a moment, you're in your corporate job and you're doing all your things, blah, 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 blah. And then you have this other side of you that nobody at your job knows about and you can't talk about, because if you talk about it, you'll get fired.
Right.
Okay. So that was me living side by side.
Now you would get fired for having two jobs, or you get fired because it was just so like, is she drinking while she's on the job? You're right. So they would think you were crazy.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's similar to like if you post something kind of ridiculous on social media today, you can get in a lot of trouble for that, even though it's not have anything to do with your teaching career. Okay. So I just kept it silent. Like the two parts of me were separate, but that's exhausting.
Yeah.
So for those of you in corporate, if you're holding two different versions of yourself, I'm about to blow your world out. Very excited.
Do it. I'm ready.
Okay. So I got to the assistant principal position, which was, for me, I was like, ooh, I get to work with the teachers. I was like, this is great. No, It was discipline. How do I end up here? Right? Like, this is not my area, except what I have learned about myself is I'm an incredibly compassionate person. My hand is on my heart more often than it's anywhere else. And the reason that I kept getting tapped to do the negative side of things was because my compassion balanced it out.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But I wasn't balanced out. My
Right.
compassion was, but I wasn't. So I left there.
Let me ask you that question,
Yeah.
because I myself, I can tell when I'm feeling unbalanced. And I went through one of your sessions, which was like so amazing. And you have taught me some tools that I use.
Mhm.
And we'll get into that. But it for me, it I do store people's energy,
Yeah.
and I've known that. And I've learned different techniques, but before obviously meeting you, and there was, meditation, obviously yoga and other things
Mhm.
that I've done. But I felt in some cases that only goes so far. But
Mhm.
I really I internalize it.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll give you a perfect example of this. A perfect example is I had a meeting with somebody who was interested, um, in being on the podcast.
Mhm.
And we had a great conversation. It was absolutely amazing.
Mhm.
I got off the call and I felt so imbalanced. I felt so dizzy. It
Mm.
almost was a nauseous type
Mhm.
feeling.
Yeah.
And I did your technique, which was to cut
Disconnect. Yep.
disconnect, and it helped me get through the rest of the day. But it was so powerful, and I constantly have you in the back of my mind when I'm in those situations, and especially even, and you recommended even after a podcast
Mhm.
or a meeting to do that, because
Mhm.
even with the podcast we get into these really in-depth conversations, and being able to yes, the podcast is over, but it's still here.
Mhm.
It's still within me. So how was that for you, where when you talk about this kind of two sides and also feeling about what was that like, so people can sort of have a reference point if they're feeling that way as you mentioned earlier?
Yeah. So it's really interesting when you're holding those two different sides of you and you're separating them. We all hold multiple,
Sure.
energies and versions of ourselves. But this is where you're literally keeping them at bay. So it's similar to a secret.
Right.
Okay. So
Yeah.
I just want you to think about secret energy for a minute and
Mhm.
what that feels like when you're holding a secret, even if it's a good secret, you get a little tired, right? You're
Right.
like, oh my God, this is just so much. I don't know if I can hold on to this. Who can I tell this to? That's not your mind, it's your body saying, this is a lot for us to hold.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So for me, I didn't know that technique back then, right? So I've this is was a in the last 6 years I've learned those techniques. But back then, what I did know was I couldn't keep doing what I was doing. I couldn't keep holding both. So I started to do little things, putting crystals in my office.
Mm.
People, if they asked, I would tell them. If they didn't, I didn't say anything. Putting certain plants in my office. Finding at that point, it wasn't my spray, but a sage spray, and I would spray my office.
Mm.
And so it allowed me to acknowledge that part of me without keeping the secret. And that lessened that kind of imbalance. But I couldn't do that in my classroom because you can't just spray anything you want in a classroom. Like, I just want you to know that.
Right.
Like, you can't just be like, I'm just going to spray lavender everywhere because inevitably some kid is allergic, right?
Right. Right.
Um, but once I learned the technique that I shared with you, and this is really interesting because I can almost imagine the question will be, yeah, but you're on a computer, or yeah, but you're distance. How does that work? And I'm going to explain that to you really easily. when you are in person, and I use Dirty Dancing as my reference. This is your dance space and this is my dance space.
Right.
What we're talking about is your aura.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah.
aura, just so it's not too woo-woo for everybody,
Yeah.
aura is just the energy that comes from skin to about 5 to 6 inches off your skin, like this area right here. And you know it because when you're standing in front of somebody and they're like, "Hi, how are you today?" You're like, "Oh my God, you're too close to me," because they're in your energy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So just to give that now, online, we still have aura. So you see Dr. Allison and I sitting next to each other, right? And actually, because our eyes connect, we're in each other's aura. That's the first thing. The second piece is there is no actual distance between us, any of us, anywhere in the world. Because all you have to do is tune in and you
Yes.
can be with them. It's no different than tuning your radio dial.
Right.
You turn the radio dial to get the frequency. So if I were to close my eyes and sit here and I wasn't on this call and I was like, okay, let me check in on Dr. Allison today. Because I have a connection with her already, I can tap right into her. I don't without permission, but I can.
Yes. Got it.
Okay. So that's how this works. You need to disconnect whether you're in person or online because their energy is enmeshed with yours as soon as you see somebody. So you just disconnect. And now people might say, okay, well, what are you doing? I'm pretending like this is a knife.
Yes.
Okay. You can also pretend scissors. Whatever works for you. Okay.
Yes.
But you're going down your energy center line, AKA the chakra line, for those of you who know what those are because they go to yoga or whatever. So all I'm doing is saying disconnect and cutting that energy so that yours goes to you and mine comes to me. That's it. It's not a cleaning. It's just a disconnection.
Yes.
Doing that allows you to not carry other people's energy. So now I'm going to go to you people who are working in corporate, and I love you all so much. Every single person that you talk to, you carry their energy around with you all day long.
And I will tell you, Faryl, that I have said that, but didn't know. I've said that to other people, but did not realize that that's where, there wasn't any scientific thing that I had or anything. But I've always said that when people are coming into your office or you're doing a Zoom call or you're in a conference or whatever the case may be, and there's people there and you're all connected for a purpose to be in that space, that is a hell of a lot of energy in there. And I think the other thing that you bring up that's really important, I do want us to get into this, especially when we are talking about corporations or just anything in general.
Okay.
I feel that we summarize things as stress. And stress is the way, that's our word to just go, oh, yeah, cool. Yeah, I feel stressed too. And then we have people sort of figure out and we have them kind of dissect what that word maybe specifically means. But to me, it could also be energy. And so before I ask this question, because I think this is going to be kind of go into it, let me back up a bit because one, I would like for you to talk about more energy and how you work with clients. But then I would really like to go back to this question. I hope you're going to allow me to go over time with us because this is really just awesome. And I knew I wouldn't be able to contain it in in the time that I told you. So let me just tell you I lied.
Okay. No problem.
But I'd like to go into that. And then I would really like us to go into, because I think in corporations, and I think entrepreneurs and founders, and just in personal, we use these words because we just know what the words are, but don't know truly what it's really, truly behind and the energy and the feeling. And I can give a lot of context to that conversation with you as well. But please, let's talk about how more energy involved, the clients that you work with, and then I'd like us to continue on with the conversation.
Okay, great, because I think it'll just segue really nicely, actually.
Yeah.
So when I left my assistant principal position, I was still because educators, we always have more than one job. Let me just say that, right? So I had another job. I was working online for an online nursing college doing training for their staff. Okay. So I had that. And I was like, okay, I need to, it's so interesting that you said stress. I need to figure out how to mitigate my own stress. Okay. I already had Reiki. So I was already doing Reiki like willy-nilly a little bit at that point. And then I found Pranic Healing. And as soon as I took my first Pranic Healing class, I started more energy. It was called More Wellness at that point. It switched to More Energy within 6 months. Wow. Because More Wellness was something that I was doing with an MLM, and it was, anyway, doesn't matter. With the inception of More Energy, I then took all the classes that I could with Pranic Healing, and I still take them. I repeat them and I take more. And I'm in a second certification program, all those things. What I found was that I was working on myself and others at the same time. And as I was working on myself, what I realized was this concept of stress that we put all the it's like a big bucket that we just kind of put everything in there.
Yes.
That was what was bothering me, like my stress level. Because the one thing I haven't told you all is that I also am the mother of 4 boys. They're all teenagers now. But when I started this, the youngest were 9. So, okay.
That had its own.
Oh, God. That could be a whole nother podcast. Okay. So, anyway.
Starting a business with a family. We all can relate. Yes.
Correct. And what was really fascinating was I found myself being referred, people would refer others to me who were in corporate spaces. And I was like, I wonder what's happening here. And then COVID hit, just to give you the timeline. Okay. Started the business, COVID hits.
Now, can I ask this question, especially since you and I talked about, what you do can be perceived as very woo-woo and out there. And were you surprised corporate people at that? Because you weren't actively going for corporate people.
No, I wasn't.
Were you? So, but corporate people were being referred to you. So you must have been like, wow, this could have been the last group I thought I would be.
Yes. It was really interesting because I also did a summit like end of 2019. So COVID, but not quite COVID.
Sure.
I did a summit where I was doing Pranic Healing for entrepreneurs. Like they asked me to speak on that topic.
Wow.
And here's what happened. A lot of the people that I was talking to who were corporate, variety of areas, they were all looking to transition to doing their own thing.
So they were already in their Unveiled process. Like Correct. It started creeping in a little bit for them.
Mm-hmm. Then COVID hit.
Sense. Yep.
Everybody wanted to become an online entrepreneur. And they were like, okay. And I was like, there is so much trauma that you guys don't even realize that you're going through, because I went through it and I was leaving education.
Yes.
What that looks like and feels like is really simple. When you're in corporate or education or whatever, anything like that, you have a set hours. Not, I'm going to say 9 to 5, but none of us ever worked that, but 9 to 5. And then you also had tasks or meetings or whatever. Your calendar was full. Okay. Sometimes full to the point where you were like, that could have been an email. Now I have no time to do the things I need to do. Okay.
Very common.
Very common.
Very common.
So here they are starting their own entrepreneurial journey. And they're like, what do I do? And I had that experience. I was like, but I don't have anything on my calendar. So I'm sitting at my desk. What do I do with this time? And so for a long time, I tried to fill my day 9 to 5 meetings. Everything was 9 to 5, 9 to 5. Shut off the computer at 5 o'clock. Like, that's not how entrepreneurial world
No,
works.
not at all.
Okay. And it's also not how energy works, which is why people struggle so much in corporate,
Yeah,
because our energy is not a 9 to 5 energy.
correct.
And we don't all have the same energy.
And you hear something very common that says, I find it really hard to shut off from work. That's a very common thing that people say, or their business. I don't know how to shut it off. And then and that phrase is super common, which made me think about saying that to you.
Well, some of that is this.
Yeah.
Right? Because
definitely.
You have your email on here.
Yep.
And you have, like, this is a mini computer. And so in theory, you're available all the time.
Right.
Okay. No. But even before we had that, understanding yourself as an energetic being, which is what more energy is all about, okay, is understanding who you are so that you can function to optimal levels, knowing your optimal levels. Because I could tell you what I do, but you're not me, and you don't have the same energetic practices that I do. But everybody has a flow in their day.
Do you feel that statement right there is the hardest part to convince people?
Yeah.
Because
ahead.
I want you to go into that reason, because I mean, to me, because of my journey and what I do, that makes perfect sense to me.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I feel it when you say it. I visualize it when you see, when you say that. But to me, I think that would be, because everyone's like, we're not a, I mean, yeah, okay, scientifically, we're made of butter, blah, blah, blah. They'll go into all that.
Mhm.
But that piece right there just would seem to me to be the biggest woo-woo before you got into other woo-woo.
Yeah, it is, and it's not. Like, it's so interesting because it is because of the word flow, right? When I say flow, everybody has a flow. They're like, yeah, they had no. But this is because we have been societally boxed into believing that the alarm goes off at 6, you go to the gym, like whatever your routine is, right?
Yeah.
And then you go about your day, and then you turn off the computer at 6, and then you go home and you worry about everything that you didn't finish at the computer.
Correct.
But your kids are home, and you're not paying attention to them because you're worried about your work.
Yes.
We have been trained to believe that flow is that work is the most important thing that we do in our day.
Correct.
Now, I'm not saying it's not.
Right.
I'm saying it may not be the only most important thing in your day. And you need to give equal time and energy to those things. Now, what I will say also is, I'm going to use this as an example, actually. I was working with a group of volunteers. And one of the things that the coordinator said to me was, they keep telling me they don't have enough time. There's not enough time for them to do this. How are they supposed to do this? There's not enough of me to go around, right? That's because they're looking at each thing as equaling 100% for the day. If we take that concept and we actually break it down to giving 100% to each activity, not 100% goes throughout the day, then suddenly we're not picking and choosing. We're actually doing things at 100% in each bucket. Because it's not this one bucket up here that we're pulling from. So for example, if I work an 8-hour day and then I have to go volunteer for 3 hours, I'm still going to put 100% into those 3 hours, even though this knocked me down energetically, like my normal 8-hour workday. Okay. Because here's why: this gets 100% and this gets 100%. We're not pulling from a larger 100%. But your 100% from 7 to 9 p.m. may look different than your 100% from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m.
So let me ask you this. Someone could be like, that sounds great, girl. That's awesome.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I have my boss on my ass. How? Because and the reason why I want to ask you this question in all seriousness is we translated what you just talked about into another word that I would like to, or a phrase
Mhm.
called work-life balance.
Ah!
Right? So that's another
Yep.
thing that made us feel better. Like, great. Now I'm
Mhm.
going to tell my boss, or I am going to run my business in a work-life balance way. But then we realized we don't even know what the hell that even
Mhm.
means. So to go with your example
Mhm.
of that, because I think when people hear that, that could sound really great in theory. But
Mhm.
again, we're programmed people, right?
Correct.
We're programmed. So how do I now change my programming to fit with something or implement something like you just said? And I think that's a really important thing that anyone can relate to, no matter
Mhm.
what position you're in a company, or you're an entrepreneur, a founder, whatever, because you still have what you and I discussed, life.
Mhm. Yeah. So the easiest way for me to put that into a different perspective for you is work-life balance is not a thing. Balance is a thing.
Right. But
To balance.
we made that word a
Uh-huh.
phrase, and we actually have it in textbooks as a
Yes.
phrase, and
Yep.
we put it also into trainings as a phase on how to do that, along with time management.
Correct, which is
Yeah.
so fascinating because you can't first of all, you're putting the word work first. So let's just talk. It's not like you're going life work balance, it's work
Right.
life balance, which means that work
Correct.
is most important.
Again, exactly why I wanted to bring that to your,
Right.
yes, totally on
All
the
of
same
these things
page.
have energy.
Yes.
Every word that comes out of your mouth, every movement that you make
Yes.
has energy. If
Correct.
you keep saying work life balance, you're still going to keep trying to balance out work.
Right. Thank you. That is what I want. Because if I said it even as a doctor, it probably wouldn't have made sense. But knowing that it's also coming from you, I think
Yeah.
even puts even more power to it. Because that is another aspect of what I really try to bring up with my clients as well.
Mhm.
Everyone's looking for strategies. They're looking for the next fix. They're looking for all this. And I'm like, did you hear what you said? Which is why I start out with the unword effect,
Mhm.
because I want people to hear and understand their words and what those words actually mean to them.
Yeah.
And if they're words that no longer serve you, that's fine too. What
Mhm.
are the other words? So thank you. That I'm so happy you said that,
Mhm.
because we're trying to figure it out, but we're not shifting our brains to think about it differently, because we're focused on work, because that's the first
Mhm.
uh, area to recognize.
Mhm.
It is that. And that was so poignant what you just said, was to be able to recognize, because you're right, you're not going to change
Mhm.
if your focus, your mind, and your energy is focused on the priority. Yes, it's a priority. People are going to be like, I got 4 kids, I need to raise them, I need to make money, I need to do
Sure.
this. Again, this conversation is not to dismiss responsibility.
No, 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 no. That's a whole different level.
Right. This isn't saying quit your job. This isn't saying any of
No.
those things. But where this is really understanding that terminology of energy,
Mhm.
because and how we can shift things when we are in a very stressful day at work,
Mhm.
and we're coming home, and it's like, how are we expected to cook dinner, be with our kids, and all that? this is what we're talking about from the basics
Right.
of this. And that's what I wanted to sort of kind of drive home with you.
Which is great because I'll tell you, the people who come, my clients, okay, who some are corporate, some are entrepreneurs, some are just moms, like it's expanded over time. But when they come to me, they always come to me with a very similar scenario, right? Work life balance, even if they're not working, but we all say it as though it's this gospel. And what I need you to know is if you were to close your eyes and put your hand, I have one hand on my heart, one hand on my my belly, and close your eyes and feel what it feels like when you say work. That's going to feel different from life in your body, not in your mind, in your body. It feels different. Life feels potentially lighter, not that it necessarily is, but it feels that way because it's not work.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Understanding how energy impacts you and what you can do to mitigate it is fundamentally the most important thing you can do, in my opinion. Because I'll give you an example.
Perfect.
You're looking at your corporate calendar and you have meetings and all the things and pieces and projects and all the things are on your calendar. When you look at your calendar, very simple. Which of those activities give you energy and which of those activities take away energy? And what I mean by that is if you know you're going to go sit in a corporate meeting, I love you and I'm sorry, that you're like, oh my God, can they stop talking? Please, I just have this project I need to do. Okay, you know that energy is draining away from you.
Yes.
So what are you going to do after that meeting, before you go back to your office or when you get back to your office, to mitigate and build back up energy?
Love it.
Now, this is where people are like, oh, well, I don't have time for this. And I don't have to, you don't need time. Breathe, sit, close your eyes, put your hand on your heart, take 3 deep breaths, and then start working. Why? Because you're now refilling your energetic coffer. So you're not taking all of that energy in. The other thing is the disconnection. When you walk out, you go into the bathroom or the office, disconnect from all the other people who are in there going rah, 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 the whole time.
Yes.
Right? Like
Yeah.
we just don't realize that the energy is being pulled away from us and we have the ability to get it back.
Let me ask you this question to go
Okay.
along, because I love the aspect of there's other people energy.
Mhm.
Now, you're in corporate, no
Mhm.
matter what role you're in. I mean, you could be from CEO to, but you got to be in this meeting, or you have meetings that you're responsible for attending or leading or whatever. It may not be what you want to do.
Right.
I feel okay. It's still part of your job. There's things in our
Mhm.
jobs we don't like doing. How do you feel? Because I think we ourselves can bring that negative energy to us,
100%.
right?
Yep.
So I think you brought a great example of of kind of either direct people,
Mhm.
a room environment,
Mhm.
and now if there's an example that you can bring, because right there in my mind, yes, I had meetings on my calendar too, and it wasn't you, Farrell, at all doing
Oh,
this
well,
podcast.
thank
I was
goodness.
so excited I couldn't hardly contain myself. But yeah, I have conversations. Either I'm just kind of feeling drained about it, or I'm just not super excited, or whatever the case. What is it that you could recommend for people of all
Mhm.
that can get ourselves centered and understand our energy before we go into a particular setting?
Okay, so it's always important. Awareness is what we're after. Let me just so that you understand. Awareness is what we're after. The important thing about awareness though is to take away the judgment. So we're just noticing. We're not actually judging or making a decision about or anything or fixing. We're literally just noticing. So when you get to work, right, usually, unless you've had a bad morning in your house, okay, but generally you get into the car, you put on your music and you're like, okay, I'm going to jam out on my way to work. Or you listen to the news or whatever you do. Now, I will tell you, what you listen to definitely plays a role in your energy. So just know that. Okay. Do what you want, but just know it.
Right.
If you know that you have to go into this meeting that you don't want to be in, we all have to do things we don't want to do. All ages, anything, doesn't matter. So you have choice about how you approach that scenario. So if we go with the same thing of we have to go to this meeting, we're in our office, it's 9:15, the meeting's at 9:30. We're finishing up emails, whatever, and we're like, oh my God, don't want to do this. Oh my God, I don't want to do this. First of all, we're taking ourselves down the rabbit hole of I don't want to do this. So as soon as you notice the thought, then you can say, I don't want to do this, but I know I have to. That's the first line, right? You have to. Okay. How can I do this with joy? What do I need to do to feel joy? You're not fixing that you don't want to go. That's understood. But what can you do to bring your body, your nervous system to a place where you're okay? You don't have to be happy, just okay, balanced about it, right? Like, I'm not telling you that what I'm telling you is going to make you go, yes, we're going into a meeting. Because no, that's not going to happen. But what I can do is say, I have a choice for how I show up in this meeting. This isn't anybody else's choice but mine.
Yes. Yes.
Right? So my choice is to sit here and continue to complain and be a victim to my circumstances.
Correct.
Or my choice is to say, okay, I know what this meeting is about. What can I do with my body right now to make sure my body feels good about going into that space? This isn't about your mind. This is about your body. So maybe it's you turn your music, you close your office door, you turn your music up a little bit and you just, right? To shake off some of that.
Yes.
Some people, though, are not that oriented because we're not one size fits all people. So what's another thing you can do? Take a pen and a piece of paper and say, okay, how am I feeling right now? Not how am I thinking? How am I feeling? And you just write it down. Get it out of the body and onto paper. Right? Because a lot of what's happening is you're just re-tapping an energy of, oh, I don't want to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, you can take that energy and you can go, no, I really don't want to do this. But if I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to do this with joy.
Yes. Yes.
What does that look like for you? It might be going and taking a walk, putting your feet in the grass. Right? Why do people do that? Because the more connected to the earth you are, the more grounded you are, the easier it is for things to move through you.
I love that. And the reason why I love that is because we are also trained to think our feelings and not feel our feelings.
That's right.
And that's a whole nother, societal discussion that, of course we could go into all day. But yeah, that, and one of the things that I do for myself on a daily basis is I love to get on my bike and ride. I feel connected to the wind. I feel connected to the road. I feel connected to the speed. I love what it does for my body. And to me, that is, and I can tell if I start feeling, for me, when I get really stressed, I tend to get a floaty feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yep, because you're not grounded.
I'm not grounded, yes. And I get a really floaty feeling. And so, I'm using myself as an example because I want people to know I'm just not having you on because I think what you're doing is really cool. And that it's a real thing. It may not be a tangible thing that you can touch and be like, yep, I just touched yep, this feels like stress here in my hands. No, my body is telling me these things. And that's why I think it's so important that I wanted to have you on this podcast, is that thinking things and being able to communicate, yes, how we're feeling is great, but we're also ignoring from here all the way down to
Right.
our toes. um Either internally we're starting to, we don't get to see those as often, so we can only describe them as feelings unless we're going through an x-ray or whatever, or we're seeing outer things as possibly, some people will get breakouts.
Yeah.
Some people will have uh, uh, weight gain.
Hmm.
They'll get, more, facial things, bags under the certain things that, everyone, of
Right.
course, is different. And those are things so important.
Hmm.
And that's why I want to have you on, because yes, we do go into our business environments, and this is an important conversation to be having.
Hmm.
Not because it's a turmoil
No.
administration right now. It's not about, yes, you could talk about it because COVID would. This isn't talking about things because it was something traumatic that happened and now we need to now take care of ourselves.
Right.
And I feel that's when it's most talked about, is when something tragic happens,
Mhm.
and it's like, or, well, now, or when you're really sick. Oh, well, take care of yourself. Well, we should be doing these, taking care of ourselves
Yeah,
before these
preemptively.
things happen. And
Mhm.
that's why it was so essential that I wanted to have you on, to be able to have this level of conversation, because I don't know that corporations are going to bring, yes, yoga's great. Companies started putting gyms in, not started, but they've done gyms. They've
Yeah.
done very kind of more traditional sort of, or acceptable things in taking care of yourself. But what you're talking about, I hope begins to really get adopted. And I hope more conversations that you get to go into organizations and really talk to the top, the executive
Yeah.
people, as well as directors, where this level of conversation, because the tools that you can bring to them doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money that you can do. Yes,
No.
going to you costs money, of course, and
Sure.
people, and yet, but there are things that you can give to people as the tools you've to, I probably should be sending you more money for the tools that you've sent to me. But 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 they are tools that I really use very seriously,
Yeah.
and that have helped me just in my conversations with you. And that's not hurting my bottom line. It's in fact helping my bottom line. And
Correct.
having these conversations in those more traditional type settings, yeah, this may sound pretty woo-woo, but the effects of it, and having people aware of this, and then having them do it on their own, will cost a lot less money.
Mhm.
People will be a lot healthier,
Yes.
for sure. And I think you're going to have less of this negativity of the things we don't necessarily want to do. And being able to shift our minds by,
Yeah.
like, yeah, I don't want to do this, but I can choose to go in there and bitch. I can sit there and be like, I don't freaking want to be here. This is horrible. I already know this. Why do I have to be in this meeting? Blah, 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 all this, all the things that go into your mind, and how productive was that at the end of the day?
Right. And then the other piece to it is we don't just leave it in the meeting. We then take it with us
Correct.
and we complain and we bitch and we moan about all the things that we could have been doing during that hour, which is now taking up more energy
Correct.
instead of being able to just leave it and move on to the next thing. And there's reasons why there's such little things that if you're at the top and you need to have a meeting with, let's say, 6 people, do it outside. Why do you have to sit in a conference room with
Right.
fluorescent lights
Right.
and no life, no
Yes.
plants? If it's plant, it's plastic, right? Like,
Yes.
get outside, because here's the thing. Being in a different environment, and it could just be a different room in the building if that's like a security issue for you or whatever. But changing the environment is so essential to changing the energy. I'm going to give you an example. There's actually, anybody can see it. It's on Facebook, I think is where I found it. But there's this group of people working in an office building. And the way that they start their team meeting is that everybody has to bring in a random object from their house and put it on the table. And you can't laugh. Now, first of all, talk about what that, like, laughing is, it truly is some of the best medicine for all kinds of reasons. But
Oh,
can
yes.
you imagine the camaraderie and the ability to connect on a human level with your team if you
Yes.
do something fun like that? I've seen another one where they put on the door, before you can go anywhere, you need to dance your way in. And they
Yes.
come in and
Yes.
they dance.
Yes.
It just drops the veil.
It drops the veil. Yeah, and what is wrong with that? We have this concept that work just has to be this, and it's amazing to me in 2025 that we are still having this conversation about why can't work, yeah, there's parts of work that sucks for everybody,
Mhm.
but why can't a majority of it be really enjoyable? Because you hear from people, oh, you're so lucky. Why is that a common thread?
Mhm.
Yeah, work is going to have its ups and downs, but why can't you never hear in an interview like, oh my god, you have to come on board, we have so much fun. It's all about, what you can bring to the table, what how you help the last companies. Tell us your professional journey. There may be a question of tell me about yourself, but don't go too deep though, because
Yeah, right. We don't have time for that.
I don't have time for
Time,
that. Right.
also a construct.
Another construct. Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I wanted to, and I thank you so much for really giving me this extra time. I
Sure.
wanted to ask two things of you. I've
Okay.
already asked so much of you already, but allow me this at least.
Sure.
I wanted to. We've talked so much about how just getting people's minds to shift. I think what you're bringing is just an amazing different tool and approach for people, and understanding that we are like there's so much we're able to do, and we think it's the external that needs to help us with that.
Yeah.
But is there anything poignant that you really feel that we've left out that you want to make sure that you want to share with the viewers and listeners?
So because your audience is mostly people in corporate still, what I want to tell you is
And we
this.
have our founders and see,
Well,
but yeah,
sure. Yeah.
but still in the working construct of it for sure.
Correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The more that you understand the relationship between what you're thinking and what you're feeling, the easier it's going to be for you to navigate those challenging moments. Because if you're only here, which I need you to know you're not alone, and most people are. Okay. So, like, please don't think you're an exception. You're not sitting there going, she's only talking about me. No. Okay. Most of us are neck uppers. That's what we
Hmm.
call, and it's not intentional. You've been trained that way, programmed
Yes.
that way. So, the easiest thing, again, if you bring your hand to your heart and just tap, just like a couple of times to activate that center, what happens is you start to see things through the lens of your own compassion.
Yes.
We
Yes.
are always looking to be compassionate outside of self. And then we're the hardest critics on self.
Correct.
The only way for you to balance out your energy, and this has nothing to do with time or space, is for you to be able to feel the difference between what you're thinking and what you're feeling. An example so that you can think, God, I look terrible today. I don't like this outfit. You can feel heavy in the outfit. You
Oh,
can feel
definitely.
constricted in the outfit. That's different than I don't like the way I look. It's
Yes.
I don't like the way I feel.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you focus on the feel instead of the think, you will be in a much better space because you'll start to do things like, okay, well, maybe I'll wear a different shirt today, right? Or maybe it's time for me to go buy new pants. I don't necessarily have to go on a diet. My body's changed. Like I'm 51. The pants that I wore when I was 22 are not, even if I was the same size, wouldn't fit me. I've had babies, right? Like, okay. So that's one. The second is to remember that you actually have energetic sovereignty. So, what do I mean by that? You have your own calendar, you have your own space, whether it's a cubicle or an office, it doesn't matter. You have your own car, you have your own bed, all of those things are yours. You can choose to make those environments friendly for your body. Get a cushion for your chair, put a flower up, um, motivational signs. Now, if you work in an office where that's not allowed, then you need to have those things on your computer screen or your phone that motivate you. It might be pictures of fish or pictures of flowers, but those are the things that you need to do to keep your space elevated.
Yes.
So that when you're looking at your computer and you're looking at your calendar, you can say, I'm supposed to work on this project from 2 to 4 with X, Y, and Z. I wonder if we could do that outside. I wonder if we could do that at a restaurant. I wonder if we could do that in a different way than we've ever done it before so that you can raise the energy.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay. You actually have the ability to put boundaries in place so that even if your boss comes in and says to you, we don't have personal items on our desks, which is a new thing. I don't know why they do that. Personal items on your desks. You can say, okay, where can I personalize? Instead of
Yes.
just accepting, put the boundary in place. Okay, but I require a little motivation. What can I do?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right? You might need 15 minutes outside to take a walk. Just take it. Stop
Yes.
eating at your desk and working.
Yes. Correct.
Because let me tell you what that does for you. You're ingesting food that has the work energy. Now you're not just putting it outside your body, you're putting it into your body. It changes the food energy. No different than if you were to look at and they have so many, there's so much science. If you talk to a plant negatively, it dies. If you talk to a plant, same energy. If you look at your food and say, thank you so much for this food, I'm going to take 10 minutes to just enjoy it, it will be a joyful process for you. If you eat while you work, you will be annoyed because you're trying to do this when you're trying to do this.
Correct. And that should be a beautiful time in replenishing your body.
Correct.
It's not that it's 12 o'clock, I need to eat. But so we're eating, one, because we need fuel.
We need the fuel.
But two, we're more looking at it like, oh, it's 12, I need to eat. Or I don't have time to eat. How do you not have time to eat?
It's a choice.
Right. Those are the things that I really want to make sure that we're really driving home. Mm-hmm. Because you should be entitled to eat.
Correct.
And what can that now look like? Or have those conversations, mainly one with yourself. Is this a boundary you're putting on yourself, or is this a boundary that someone else is putting on you? Because I think
more often than not, it's us.
Correct. I absolutely agree with you.
Very few bosses are going to walk up to you and say, no, you can't eat lunch in another space.
Correct.
Very few bosses are going to tell you, no, you can't go to the bathroom. But let me tell you, my educators out there, they never go to the bathroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is not okay. Exactly. Not taking care of yourself with normal bodily functions is actually causing you to become ill because you're holding the energy. Your literal physical body is holding this energy all the time.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's what I would say. I mean, I could
No,
go into a whole time management thing, but that would take a whole nother podcast.
no, I am very grateful because I think with us focusing on that point, because we tend to shift the blame sometimes and most often on others to justify why we can't do something.
Mhm.
And that usually sometimes need to be turned back on us, why we are depriving ourselves. What's that about? And I think that's an important exploration, which people can definitely, I will make sure that they can find all of your information in the episode description when we launch your podcast. If you I like to kind of shift, and we can definitely do this in a quick manner. I like to have my guests think of a question that they would like to ask me before we wrap up. I normally have them on the hot seat for a bit of time, and I wanted to see if you had a question you wanted to ask me. And I think I got a message from you that said, "Ooh, I think I almost felt your hands sort of doing this through the email." So,
She's seen me before.
yeah.
Okay. So in your work, both prior to the podcast, but also with the podcast, do you find that there is a theme that kind of runs through, it might be more than one theme
Mhm.
that kind of runs through everybody that you work with, that they can't seem to quite get there? And what I mean by that is it's like you give a, I'll use myself as an example. Somebody will come to me and they'll say, "Okay, how do I do this?" Do you get a
Yes.
lot of those "how do I do this?"
Yes.
And
I
are you
get it.
able to
Yeah.
answer them?
I actually try not to answer them. Uh, because that I don't, because sometimes the how may
Mhm.
not actually be the full story of
Correct.
what they actually um of what's let me phrase it this way. When that question usually comes up, there's a lot more underneath that question.
Mhm.
And so part of where I find our practices to be similar
Mhm.
is I want to understand the words. And I think that's what makes me. I do come from a clinical background, so I
Mhm.
did do family and adolescent therapy for a bit of time. Uh, I love business and people, which is why I went from my PhD in organizational psychology.
Yes.
And so I love people, behaviors, why we do the shit we do. Um, and I have been in this field for over 30 years. And so I think what's always made me stand out and very unique is I need to understand the people before we can understand what it is we're trying to do in our business. Because that itself could be one of the components that we
Mhm.
need to look into and explore before we can really even get to that question.
Yeah.
And so I think where my field has sort of been done a disservice is we answer that question. We want to be paid to answer that question. And
Mhm.
I feel that we're doing our clients a disservice by answering that question for them. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if I could truly even be correct in how I answered that question for them
And yet,
without, yeah, and yet without understanding this first component of what's really underneath. And so that's really how I would answer that question for you. But I get asked it all the time because people feel that when they come to someone with my executive coaching level,
Mhm.
and even boards, it doesn't matter, that I'm going to be like the rest of them that go, yes, here's that perfect customized plan for you, and there you go.
Mhm.
And 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work because they're not even going to understand or know what it even means, because we haven't sort of done this understanding and pre-work.
That's right. And for me, the conjunction for that is this. The how is none of our business. And
Right.
if we start to create the box,
Yes.
then okay. So that's one. The other one is, if I could implore your audience to recognize that there is no magic pill.
Exactly. Thank you.
And
Yes.
even if there was, we'll use like Ozempic, right? Like
Right.
the
Sure.
magic weight loss drug, right?
Sure.
Which, yeah, it works. But here's the thing, it's not going to work the same for you as it works for me. It's the same thing with answering that question. If I were to give you a how, that's going to work for me because I only know my own energy.
Right.
I can give you a list of practices to try, a list of ideas to flow with, but you have to pick the one. You have to do the work. And
You.
that
Yes.
is, I feel like, the key that people forget. Don't go to a professional, think even a doctor. It's
Yes.
not an exact science. They're going to try something. And if that doesn't work, they're going to try something else. So
You
just
know,
remember that.
yeah, and you're 100%, because I would think that this would also go along in your field as well. And please correct me if I'm wrong. I am not for everybody,
No. Oh, God, no.
and nor do I claim to be for
Me
anybody.
either.
But
Same.
I also will tell someone, I don't feel you're ready at this moment.
Mhm.
And we will have a discussion around that. And usually when I do that, one, I do it just because that's just, I'm a
Right.
compassionate and empathetic person. Um, but two, I do it because if they don't understand what this journey, and it is a journey
Yes, it
that
is.
you're going to go on with working with me.
Mhm.
Um, but one, you have to be a 100% ready mind, body, and soul person to be able to work with me.
Yeah. Makes
And
sense.
because I'm a mind, body, and soul person. So yes, I want to make money. I want to do great work. I'm just like everybody else. But my approach, when people are like, "Well, what makes you so different?" and all that is a main key reason of how I am very, very different. And that's exactly why I want to show on this podcast, by showing and highlighting, one, myself in these different situations, but also the incredible people behind the business,
Yeah.
as we're doing with you today. And that's really essential, and that's the connection I really try very hard to educate people about. It's you really sometimes are kind of almost all you need with creating
Oh,
that energy
100%.
and support people.
Mhm.
It's very, very important. Yes.
Well, and to just you had asked me a question earlier, and I wanna make sure I answer it for the
Please.
people really quick. Soul curious, right?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes.
You're welcome. So, Dr. Allison is describing soul curious people. I'm describing soul curious people, but let me give you an example of what that actually feels like. If you are somebody who feels, not thinks, feels like they were meant for more. If you are somebody who feels like you're stuck, if you are somebody who has tried all the things and yet here you are still feeling the way you're feeling, okay? And again, I'm not specifically talking about clinical psychological disorder, although that can work too. But
Sure.
just in general, you're just like that. This is so, I'm so tired of doing this. You are soul curious because what you have figured out is that there is something inside of you that is almost gnawing away, going, we're supposed to be doing something else. This isn't right. I don't feel connected. I'm confused. That is a soul curious person, because you're aware. And there are tons of people who walk around this world who have no feeling at all.
Absolutely.
Because they don't tap in because of fear.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it can be scary.
Right?
It can be scary.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah. It can be scary.
That plays into what you were saying a moment ago, because if you are a believer that you can heal, and heal is a very big word in this context, right? It could be anything from a sore throat to like emotional healing.
Sure.
If you believe that, then you are curious about what's more for you, right? You're curious. You want to know why you only use part of your brain. You want to understand why a cut heals your body. Your body heals it like on its own. You want to understand why people listen when you speak. It's not a woo-woo thing. It's an understanding that we are made up of 3 parts: energy, water, and feeling. Now, let me be clear. The energy in the water makes the physical body. Feeling is the soul that incarnates the body. Everybody has one. I don't care what you believe. There's a consciousness and there's a physical body. It is. There, you can argue with me all you want, but science says so. Okay? There's a consciousness. There's a body. The body is made up of water and energy. The consciousness is the mind or the soul. Now, in this case, mind is not a thinker, it's a feeler. That's why we need to connect these two. Mind, heart.
Absolutely. And we're going to end on that. That really honestly sums it up. And with that being said, this wraps up another episode of the Unconversations podcast. A huge thank you to Faryl Moore for joining us today and for sharing your incredible journey, your incredible experiences, and the amazing work you are doing for humankind. I am just so grateful for it. So what I want everyone to do is be kind, be loving, get reacquainted with your heart. Faryl, thank you so much again.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for streaming the Unconversations podcast. To help the Unword Effect, subscribe, share, and step into the movement that's flipping the script. Catch the next episode where we unmute the truth and uncover the unexpected.